This episode of JJ Meets World is brought to you by Natalie Deutsch of Hatch Realty. Natalie has a proven track record to get your home sold faster and for more money. She is consistently focused on her clients' needs and wants throughout the entire process and make sure that they are well taken care of. If you're looking to buy or sell, reach out to Natalie today. On average, Natalie sells a home every 3.74 days. That's at least 2 a week. And last year, Natalie earned her clients on average over $4,000 above list price on their homes. And you don't have to take our word for it. Here's some of the great reviews Natalie has received. I was overwhelmingly impressed with Natalie and all the Hatch team. She was very responsive and responded to all of the emails within an hour. She gave great advice and encouragement from the listing and pictures, the offer, and all the closing details. The marketing team knew exactly how to promote my property, and I was pleased by how soon and easily my property received an offer. I was actually dreading selling my condo, and Natalie did such an awesome job that I felt like I really didn't need to do anything. The thing I most appreciated was that she really listened to what I wanted to do and respected my decisions. I would definitely recommend Natalie and all the Hatch Realty team. They made this process so wonderful. That was from Diane. So listen, if you're in the mood to buy or sell a home, give Natalie a call right now. You can reach her at 701-388-9338. Natalie, Natalie, at hatchrealtyfm.com, or you can go to livefargomorehead.com. That's livefargomorehead.com and find out some information. Huge thanks to Natalie Deutsch of Hatch Realty for sponsoring JJ Meets World. Hello, podcast listener. This episode of JJ Meets World features Sally Jacobson from the Red River Zoo. We get to talk to Sally about animals and what they do when animals poop and great stuff like that. Plus, she's going to give you some information about how if you want to become a member of the zoo or if you'd like to donate, that would be great. Speaking of donations, patreon.com/JJMeetsWorld. Help us keep the lights on for less than the cup of coffee that can fit inside of an olive jar. That'll make sense very soon. Patreon.com/JJMeetsWorld.
1, 2, 3, 4. J.J. Gordon, sort of like that Indiana Jones, in that he's always sniffing out his next adventure. Yes, he is. He's always interviewing guests so he can have them on his show and they can talk about pop culture, arts, and leisure. J.J. has his flag unfurled and he likes his french fries curled, and he's fun and then he twirled as he goes to meet the world. He will march into the rain even if his ankle sprained. Take a peek inside his brain. This podcast is called JJ Meets World.
We are rolling, JJ. Anytime you want to kick us off with this intro, you go for it, bud.
Sometimes we rely on the most...
Oh my God, are you okay? Are you okay?
Keep rolling. Keep rolling.
Are you injured? So, right as we start recording, JJ's chair literally broke and he fell to the floor. Are you injured?
Keep rolling.
Hold on. I got to start up this other microphone so you can start talking. Oh, never mind.
Oh, God. I mean, it's just dead. It's gone.
I'm taking a photo.
I'm going to note that Tucker bought these chairs, and I think you set me up. You jumped. Oh. I'm going to explain to my wife later how I got these bruises. She's going to be like, why is your armpit all bruised? I collapsed in this chair. And it couldn't have just put me right on the ground, too. It was a 2-stage break where I kind of fell down, and then I fell down and the seat went down, and then the arms split apart. Oh.
My stomach hurts from laughing.
Good. I'm glad that you got something that was amusing to you. Also, did you keep asking me if I was injured?
Well, yeah.
Why didn't you just ask me if I was hurt?
Well, I did. That's what
Because,
injured means, JJ.
No, it doesn't. Because what about my emotions? I have hurt emotions.
Injured and hurt basically means the same thing. In fact, injured's more specific. Is your body harmed? Are you okay? Like nothing's bleeding?
Oh, you've got a better vantage point for blood.
Well, okay, so
Do you see any blood coming through my sweatshirt?
you're wearing a black hoodie. I'm not seeing any blood.
I think I'm okay. I mean, I'm really sweaty right now because my body's in a panic, but like I think I'm okay.
That was. Oh my god.
Well, it's a good thing.
So donate to our Patreon because we need new chairs.
Yeah, we're down now. Now we can't have 4 guests. We can't have 4 people on at the same time. We can only have 3 because we only have 3 chairs.
Oh, my stomach.
Well, I guess Tucker and I are gonna go look for some chairs today. We're gonna look for some new chairs as part of our day. And the whole thing I was gonna talk about now is worthless. So we're just gonna chalk it up to the fact that thousands and thousands of people will literally hear the moment that my rump bursts through the bottom of a chair and hurt me. So rest in peace, chair, and these little nubs that were holding it together. Our guest today is Sally Jacobson, who did not break a chair when she was here, but she has a very interesting chalice from which she was drinking coffee. That we talk about right off the bat. Sally is the executive director of the Red River Zoo. I'll just finish this while you sit over there and laugh, okay? And we get to talk a lot about the zoo. We talk about how her passion for animals now gets to be a career. How lucky when you actually get a job that is something that you're passionate about. It's rare. It's rare that people, I think, get that opportunity. And so she's living her best life possible. So, as you guys get into this, I want you to think about that time that you went to the zoo and you were amazed, whether it was last week or 50 years ago.
I can't look at the broken chair in the ground.
No, it's a shame chair. It's all full of shame. And it had previously broken once, and I thought I had fixed it. So this is probably as much on me as it is on you. So, podcast listeners, I hope that you enjoy this episode of JJ Meets World with Sally Jacobson from the Red River Zoo, as well as star of the film Night of the Sassy. More on that later. Podcast, go!
JJ Meets World.
Sally Jacobson, welcome to JJ Meets World.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So you're drinking out of a Spanish olive jar this
I
morning,
am.
and you're not drinking olive juice.
No. It's coffee. It's straight coffee.
Oh, okay. And I noticed like you even kept the lid.
I know. Well, see, I never keep track of like those portable coffee mugs ever.
Yeah.
And then I have to it's a debate, either like leave my coffee at home, which is really sad. And so this morning I knew I would not make it without some coffee, just dump it in there. And actually, I'm going to advocate for this now. I think it's actually really smart.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it's part of that reduce, reuse, recycle movement, right?
Exactly.
So here's my question. Did this just happen to be at the top of your recycling, and so you grabbed it, threw some water through it, washed it out? Or is this like your constant, like I've got gas station sunglasses that are super cheap that for whatever reason I haven't lost in a decade, but the one nice pair of sunglasses I invested in, gone in like 20 minutes.
Yes, exactly. Well, I have like a whole cupboard in my cupboard, a bunch of glass jars of different sizes and shapes because they're so cool.
Yeah.
And you never know when you're going to want to use one.
Does your coffee taste like sliced Spanish olives?
Well, what's interesting, it tastes a little bit like brown sugar because I had been storing brown sugar in it. But I really needed to bring coffee with me.
So like the next thing that you put in there is going to taste like coffee and brown sugar and sliced Spanish olives.
This
all
might be
in
my
one.
permanent coffee one for a little while until I lose it.
I mean, here's the thing. It's the perfect size. So I didn't even question it when I came in until I saw the telltale sign of what I was like, is that the word olive on the side of that thing? Sure enough. And then, of course, the nutrition information doesn't match anymore.
There is sort of
true.
like the unspoken, is she drinking olive juice? Is that what she's doing?
Yeah,
right now?
well,
Is that lady drinking olive
Just
juice?
walking around town with it.
Do you ever see black olives in a glass jar or only green
yes.
olives? Okay. So, like, that could have been the juice from black olives, but certainly not Spanish
Right.
olives.
With pimento.
See, okay, who's getting their olive without pimento? Because I feel like that is something that we should just accept as this is the way that you serve an olive.
Yes, it's kind of a ripoff if not. And I don't like them if they have the seed in there. That's just disturbing.
Oh, how many times have you been, maybe at like a fancy party and they've got like a little relish tray along with the charcuterie and you grab an olive and And it's got
Basically
the pit
break
in
your
it.
teeth.
No, thank you whatsoever. What are you putting your green olives with pimento in?
What am I putting my green olives with pimento
Yeah,
in?
like what are you
Oh,
what are you
what was
making?
this for?
Yeah.
Pasta. My son loves olives, so I usually put in
You're
the
putting
pasta.
green olives right into the pasta?
Oh yeah.
See, the is it Kalamata or Clamata is
Oh yeah.
I want to say Clamato, but that's definitely not what it is. But those olives, the Kalamata or Clamata. Do you know what olives I'm talking
Please
about?
continue trying to pronounce the word you can't remember.
So, I'm sure we have a listener who's like, it's called Clyde. They're called Clyde olives, JJ. But I got really into those. I did the Whole 30 challenge 2 years ago.
Okay.
And so I was using that a lot, like those olives a lot, because they're like, oh, they're super rich in protein or
What's
something.
the Whole 30 challenge?
The Whole 30 is where you cut out sugar and refined grains. I mean, you're pretty much eating down to the basics. And it was a long month. But it was
Yeah.
great. I felt wonderful afterwards.
Did you really? Did you have a lot of more different energy? Or?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's just like, so I've got a bad habit of drinking Diet Coke. It's like, because I don't drink coffee. Tucker will take down 2 large coffees in a morning.
Yeah.
And he'll drink it all day long. I don't understand.
No. I stop. I have to stop around lunchtime.
Like 9 o'clock when I go to bed, I stop.
I have
drinking
acid
coffee.
reflux disease, and so like the acidic coffee, like really after a while, yeah. And so I'm trying to what I've been doing at work now because there's like free coffee all day at work, just constant. You know, it's just comes out of a spigot. You just constantly have coffee, and the 3 options are mild, coffee, and bold. And so I go now. What I do is I go bold in the morning, and then once that cup's down to about a third left, I just fill it with hot water, and that's my second coffee.
Oh, weird. Okay.
And it actually is pretty awesome.
See, I'm coffee all day, all night.
Yeah.
Like last Friday night, this is kind of lame, but what I did is I just watched a million episodes of the Great British Baking Show.
No, I love that show.
And I realized it was 1 a.m. and I was sitting with a coffee. Like, I'm like, this can't be normal. Stop.
Do you find it hard to watch that show and not just be craving whatever it is
It's
that
just
they're
so
making
fun.
in it?
It's so fun to watch what they do, and they're so positive.
Yep.
Versus, it's not a negative, thing.
Yeah, we've got Chopped in America, right? And so
Right.
Chopped, it's a competition and no one's helping anyone else and they're kind of squealing on each other too and telling tales.
Yeah.
But the Great British Baking Show, if someone needs help, people go help.
Yeah,
and
they're
they're always excited to see what the other person did.
Yeah.
Kind of the difference between American Idol and The Voice. One is about, those moments where someone's getting crushed, and the other one is just about a celebration of the thing.
Right.
There was a show this last year that I didn't watch any episodes of called The Masked Singer, where people wore costumes and had to sing.
Oh.
Yeah, and I did not get behind it. But get this is a really great tie-in to our guest, Sally Jacobson. They're
Ooh, is
dressed
it?
as animals. So there was like,
Oh.
ooh, who's the elephant? Ooh, who's going to be the panther? And amongst all of your great qualities, the zoo is a huge part of your life.
Yes, it is. I love zoos and aquariums. I always have.
How'd you get started in the zoo world?
It's interesting. For me,
It better be because you've
well,
just
I just
said
said
it
it's
now.
interesting. Dang it. No, but my mom, we used to live in DC when I was a really little kid. My mom used to take us to the zoo all the time, I suppose because it was free and something to do with little kids. And I can remember literally being a year and a half old and looking into the polar bear exhibit. And I had no idea I just saw glass and water in front of me. And a polar bear just swam up, pushed his paws off. And I could remember every single second of that, I could remember my dad's tweed bell bottoms and how itchy they were and how terrified, but yet in awe I was. And after that, I just wanted to do something to save animals and work with animals. So that's
that's
what I do.
awesome.
Yeah. So maybe
And-
it's interesting.
People who listen to this podcast outside the Fargo Moorhead area get a neat glimpse at Fargo Moorhead, but because I think a lot of people think podunk, right?
Yeah.
When you think of Fargo, like, oh, you guys have indoor plumbing? Are you taking horses to work?
Exactly.
But we've got a really first-rate zoo in Fargo. We're very, very lucky, and it's
Yeah.
relatively new by some zoo standards.
Yeah.
So how did you get involved with the Red River Zoo?
Yeah. So actually, I started about 7 years ago. My background is in anthropology, and I did a little bit of graduate coursework in primatology. So I originally started at another zoo working with monkeys and apes and kind of worked my way up through everything that zoos do. So I started at Fargo Zoo about 7 years ago on the business end. I had always worked with animals or the education component, so I had to learn a lot about business. And thankfully, when this job opening for the director came about, I was one of the people selected. They did a national search, and I was lucky enough to get that responsibility.
Well, it's exciting.
Yeah.
And you've done a lot of really interesting things with the zoo, and you
Yeah.
take advantage of every opportunity, I think, for people looking for a place to go with their kids, a place to go as an adult that's unique and different. My wife and I went to one of the feeding things where it's like, oh, come on out. We're going to have all these breweries. And then, you get to watch the wolves being fed. And
Yeah.
I had that same moment where I was pressing my face against the fence and going like, whoa. And it was just a ton of fun.
Yeah.
And I was out at the zoo for when we had the eclipse.
Oh, yeah, that was so fun.
Huge.
There were so many people there. That was awesome. Well, we had ordered those special glasses that you need way in advance, not really realizing that I guess everybody else in town ran out of them.
Yeah, it was a total shortage.
Yeah, and people were going crazy for these glasses, but we were handing them all out. But what I like about our zoo, we are really young. We're only 20 years old, so this is our 20th year being open. And we're completely nonprofit, which is almost unheard of for a zoo that's starting up. But more importantly is that we specialize in cold climate species. So we specialize in animals that do really well in environments just like here in Fargo. And they're just dedicated to doing what we can for the animals that we can. So we're very, very mission centered. But also I think because we're young and I'm kind of, I don't know, silly or a risk taker, we do a lot of silly things it kind of falls in that Fargo north of normal kind of the stuff you wouldn't expect from a zoo. Just like that weird April Fool's joke that we pulled the other day.
Yeah, so just a couple days ago, I think you guys without a doubt won April Fool's Day in the FM area, that's for sure. You want to tell us a little bit about what you did?
Yeah, so we did a kind of an April Fool's prank. It was really cool. We had one of our staff members even make up a whole mock of the exhibit, basically launching a $400 million campaign to bring dragons into the zoo. And we kind of echoed a lot of the themes from Game of Thrones. It was really quite cute.
And you fielded a bunch of phone calls from people being like, so when is this real? I mean, I know it's not real, but is it real?
No, nobody said I know it's not real. They called to inquire more about the dragons and it even said, fire breathing dragons, and that we're getting a heat shield to protect our keeper staff from when they're going in. But I felt kind of bad because one older lady called and she just kind of shamed me a little bit.
For this
You shouldn't do that to people.
inappropriate prank.
You just shouldn't do that to people. I was excited.
I've been waiting to die until I see a real dragon. And
I like how she took it that you lied to these people.
Right.
You got their hopes up.
Yes.
Why would you do that? That's fantastic. Didn't you have an anecdote of some kid you went to school with in college? Found out that there were Denisovians or something, and so he thought that was what hobbits were based off of.
So I went to college in Chicago at Columbia because I wanted to be a filmmaker until I realized, oh man, I don't like the kids who are going to school for film. And there was this kid, and he was just a massive in all stature guy. He was like an Andre the Giant type human being. And he had broken his right arm, and so he was wearing a sling cast, but the sling was bothering him, so he had a full bath towel that he was using that kind of was spread over, so it sort of looked like a cape a little bit. But so in this class, we had to talk about ideas we had going forward from news stories, and so I took this story of a guy who was a cop who found. Tracked these thieves who had stolen a donut truck because donuts were falling out. And so he drove around the city until he found a donut, and then he found another donut, and then that's how he tracked them to get back. But this guy sets the stage for us by going, thousands of years ago, on a continent we no longer inhabit. And then he talks about how they found this miniature society who obviously represented what we would consider a hobbit by today's Tolkien standards. And he goes, so what does this all mean? Yeah. Dragons. And I think we were all waiting to see where he was going to go with this thing. And when he ended on dragons, A few of us were like, beers afterwards. So, okay, yeah, sounds good. Because people want to see dragons. They want to believe that dragons are real.
Yeah. Well, and I thought, well, maybe they're thinking of like Komodo dragons or something. I tried, but if you read, that means they didn't read the content nor look at the picture.
Oh yeah, welcome to the 21st century. We're headline only these days.
It's not the same thing, but if you do need something to kind of like, it's like a consolation gift, though, I think you should look into getting into being interested in dinosaurs.
There you
because
go.
I was huge into dinosaurs as a kid. Once I learned that there were these massive, dragon-like without the fire breathing beasts that used to live, on this continent and on this planet. And I have a great aunt who was connected with the Cincinnati Zoo, and she just personally was ultra interested in wildlife. And so every time we'd go visit family in Kentucky and around that area, we'd go to the Cincinnati Zoo. And she would basically be our tour guide. And then she would basically at every stop, we wouldn't read the placards or anything because she would know the name. And then she would have things to tell us about.
Yeah.
And other people would kind of hear her talking about it and like gather in a bit. Her son, who passed away a few years ago, for a time was one of like the world authorities on the black rhino.
Oh, sure.
I think that's what it was. He was the only person to have, I want to say, milked one in captivity. Or no, in the wild.
Wow.
Milked one in the wild.
Wow.
Yeah, and he was hired by countries to migrate these some of these rhinos from one area of the country to another to a preserve that they had set up because they didn't want to put them all in trucks.
Right.
And so he had an amazing story.
Oh, I
But I'm
bet.
sorry, but to tie it back into my last thought there was that, so I went to the Cincinnati Zoo with my Aunt Jean, and she bought me a dinosaur poster, which I still have.
Oh, nice.
Which is laminated.
Yep.
And it's this really awesome poster from probably like 91. And it separates the different layers of it basically looks like layered ground, and they stand for each of the epochs of dinosaur life. And then I would like study the words on it. And anyway, so if you're upset that we don't get dragons at the Fargo Zoo, look into dinosaurs, but then just go to the zoo and look at the birds.
Well, the nice part about the April Fools is that we finally got people back because zoos get pranked big time on April Fool's Day. You get so many, which is actually really fun. I look forward to it all year. Like, all right, who's going to call? What are they going to ask for? And so I look forward to it literally all year long to see what kind of weird calls that we get. So it was kind of nice to turn the tables around.
We hear the pigs escaped.
Yeah, or somebody's secretary will give, their coworker or whatever a phone number to return a phone call to Mr. Bear, and then you have to something like that, and you have to break it to them. No, you called the zoo. So, and we put a little fundraising thing at the end, like a little joke, Happy April Fools. But if you want to support the zoo, and we made like $700, and people really, most people did have a really, thought it was really funny. So it was fun.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And if you think that dinosaurs really exist, you've got some interesting things to talk about around your dining room table.
Dinosaurs did exist.
Dragons.
Yes.
Sorry. Well, we don't know about dinosaurs. I've heard a lot of things about ancient cultures burying bones to trick. It's like the ultimate April Fools. I don't believe that, so you don't need to write into the show. So another thing, Sally, you were in a short film I saw. I think that's the first time that I ever became known of who you are.
Oh, yeah.
That previous guest Greg Carlson made about Sasquatch.
Oh, yes, that was a good one.
Yeah. What was it? Do you remember
Night of the Sassy. We were
Night
just
of the
talking about it
Sassy.
before you got here.
And it was such a fun little short film that involved like Greg's obsession with Sasquatch, and he had the board game as a part of it. And I feel like there were costume pieces that he already had. He's like, don't worry. This thing's pretty much done. All I need is people.
Right.
Yeah, like he had the board game was a big part of it. I think the board game may have kickstarted the idea.
Probably it was, yeah. And I was not aware of that board game until we started making the movie. But it was actually really fun. But the movie itself was really cute. I thought we got really creative, but it was different than it played at the Fargo Theater. And I didn't really think to tell any of my family anything about it.
Oh. Mm-hmm.
So I was married at the time. My brother-in-law and his friends all went. And he was like, "Oh my gosh, that's my sister-in-law. That's my sister-in-law." Oh my.
Oh, yeah.
I was like,
Because
"Oh, sorry."
There's
It takes a
There's
turn.
a PG-13 moment.
It takes a turn, but it's still.
later on.
I think it's still tasteful, though.
Yeah,
you know,
no, it
it's-
was really cute.
It's nothing
Yeah.
bad.
In fact, the thing I remember most from that short, and unfortunately you're not a part of it, Sally, but when your boyfriend in the film you're setting up the tent and there's like a fly and he is spraying all of the
Yes.
the like off all around him and he just like circles and circles and circles.
He's
really
not
funny.
made for that life.
Right.
He's not made. He's because their relationship is very much one where she's ultra interested in Sasquatch, and he's ultra interested in her, but not Sasquatch, not that part of it. And
Right.
just to refresh even my memory, your character is a Sasquatch expert,
Yeah, I think like maybe a cryptozoologist.
cryptozoologist. That's what it was. Okay.
It's a much fancier way of saying it.
So,
But-
have you then ever met someone who found out that you were you're not technically a zoologist, are you?
No, I'm not.
No, that would be an actual you went to school for being a zoologist kind of
So
thing.
my background was anthropology.
Does
but,
anyone ever contact you honestly, like offering their cryptozoological services?
I wish. No, I wish. No, we get all sorts of other calls of people with weird pets and things like that, but nothing.
JJ, let's start the first cryptozoological zoo.
Yeah.
And be
No, there you go.
cryptozoologists.
Yeah, I mean, if they can make $700 in a day, we could roll into town, set up a tent, and walk out of here with $1,000 cold hard cash. So you bring up an interesting thing about people's pets, right? Do you ever get offers from individuals or from law enforcement for like, we just confiscated a giant snake? Would you guys like a snake?
Yeah, so we get lots of phone calls, mostly from individuals. So people don't understand, like when you run a zoo, there's a specific plan. You have a collection plan just like any other museum, and you're taking animals, a lot of them that are in need, species that are endangered, and you're working with other zoos around the world. But people innocently think, oh, I bought this, whatever it is, maybe the zoo wants it. And so we have to redirect people quite often. But I've gotten calls from everything, from the regular iguanas all the way up to somebody calling trying to get rid of a giraffe. It's quite crazy what people have. And not too often with a law enforcement, but every once in a while they'll get a call.
I think of like the individual who was like, no, it'll be awesome to have a monkey. And it's like, you
Right.
better not get that monkey. And then they get the monkey and they find out it is not fun. And the person that they bought the monkey from is like, no, I'm not taking that monkey back. I made the same mistake you did.
Get a cat. Get a cat.
There's a story in Grand Forks just this last year of a black bear that had wandered into town. And it kind of captivated everyone because the initial thought was like, well, we'll just put it down. Like it's a danger to society and we need to take care of it. And I saw in the comment thread on one of the stories was, well, someone called the zoo. The zoo can take it. The zoo can take it.
Yeah.
But if they dropped a black bear off, it's not like you've got the proper
Right.
environment. It's not like you've got the proper,
Yeah, you can only house so many animals, and you only have each exhibit design is very specific for that species. So it's not like we just have this huge area where we can just take whatever happens to pop by. But we do offer our services whenever we can help because
you did help in that situation,
we
didn't you?
did, yeah. Because law enforcement aren't necessarily trained in what to do with wildlife. Neither are the rest of the people wandering around Fargo, I guess. But that incident really just kind of showed me that's really how you see how humans are encroaching on animals, wildlife, and how our instinct to just get in their face and go watch it almost like a freak show can really cause kind of negative repercussions.
Yeah, I think working in media, there are times where like, should I report on this? Because yes, there's a moose, but they don't want 1,000 people to go and like swarm around to see this moose. That's when someone gets hurt.
Right. So you take it from where you could just let the moose pass through, but once you start to get, everybody over there to watch it, then that's where you have a lot of problems, and that's often when it goes south or when you have to put the animal down.
There's a thing that used to be popular in tourism called bear dumps, where like smaller towns, smaller communities would have
Yep.
a dump, and then every night bears would come to the dump.
Oh,
And
okay.
so they would say like, "Oh, you can go and you can park and you can watch these bears dig through the garbage."
Oh, that seems like
Yeah.
an awful
at night.
idea.
It is.
That seems
And
like
then
an absolutely
Yes,
terrible
it
idea.
does.
They wonderfully lampoon it in the John Candy
That's-
film, The Great Outdoors.
That's when I started laughing when you told the story because like a bear dump. That's not really funny. But as soon as you said it, my head went right to John Candy.
Yeah, and like, and even like with it, he goes up to a guy at a bar and he goes, "What's a bear dump situation down here?" But he's like, the bears are so far away. They're like, "You guys want to see a show?" And he's like, "Hey guys, you want a Zagnut?" And he throws this candy bar into the dump, and one of the bears gets attention. And then he taps on his car with these candy bars, and then two of them finally come up and are laying on top of his car, like these giant black bears. And he's doing this, whoa, whoa. Whoa, 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 whoa. And it's a wonderful, wonderful
It's a really
scene
funny
from that
scene.
movie.
I think they drive away with one still on the roof.
I know that I've gone to on like a family vacation as a kid, some place where you can drive through like bear land, and there's like
Oh yeah, there's bear country in South
100
Dakota.
bears right there, and you just stay in your car.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
I just remember what was that? What
I
is
think
it?
bear country
Bear
in South
country?
Dakota. It must be out maybe in.
South Dakota sounds right.
Yeah.
I think it was that trip that we saw it on. So I mean, that doesn't seem like a good idea, does it?
No, it doesn't seem like a good idea to me. But you know, there are a lot of drive-through parks that are done really, really well, and what a lovely way to view a lot of animals. You know,
I just
So-
remember thinking, this is a ton of bears.
Yeah.
Like there's a bear every 10 feet.
Yeah.
Like this is
A lot of
like,
bears.
like if all these bears organized, they could seriously mess up this part of the country.
Right.
Why do you think people have a fascination with zoos?
You know, I think that zoos have a really interesting, back history, but I really do think that people just love to see something different. And not all of us are going to be able to get out to see these kind of animals and to get up close viewing. I think that that's what the appeal is. But now with modern day zoos, I think that we complement conservation so well, and that most people are not aware of what zoos are doing behind the scenes, and maybe we haven't done a good enough job about talking about it publicly. But what we're doing with the money when people come to spend time with their family and learn something new, it's really funding a lot of really, really amazing conservation work. So
So going back to reduce, reuse, recycle, and conservation, Bob Harris had showed me a gallery on your Facebook about how during cleanup week you would go out and use things like a refrigerator that somebody has thrown out.
Yes.
Those are hilarious.
my garbage picks.
Yeah.
I'm going to keep doing them. Sometimes people are like, I don't know if you should do those anymore, because of the position you're in. But it's like, oh no, they're super funny.
Yeah.
And if I can, I'll take it like an artistic thing, like, oh, well, this is about how much garbage we have in society. I'll try to take it serious,
Yeah.
that way. But it's super funny. Every year people are, when are you putting your garbage picks? So for those who maybe aren't aware of what we do in Fargo, because not every community does that, but
No.
once a year, for a whole week, everybody puts out on their lawns or boulevards kind of all of the trash that they don't want anymore. And you see a lot of people come by and
I am going to be
pick.
purging during that period of
can't
time.
wait.
Big time. I can't wait either.
And it's not just bags of garbage. You're not talking about like, oh, I haven't been throwing away my cereal boxes this last
Right.
year. Like giant pieces of furniture, appliances. The things that don't fit in your trash can are the things that you find on the
Right.
street.
The things that
And-
you just don't have the emotional capacity to get rid of any other
Yep.
way besides just going,
and like
Right.
you've already
You
been,
take it.
You've already been told by
Exactly.
your supervisor at work not to use the work dumpster anymore. The thing I love the most about cleanup week is the fact that it is not just about garbage. It's about finding a new life for, I would say,
Yeah.
half the items
I
that get
know.
put out there.
right.
This last year, I put out a ton of stuff. We cleaned out the crawl space in our basement. Hasn't been cleaned out since the 50s.
Yeah.
And so I put all of this stuff out on our boulevard, and 90% of it someone else grabbed.
No, it's
Like,
amazing. It's actually
it's
amazing
so
because people
cool.
take things and they take whatever nasty couch and they totally will redo it. And yeah, it's a really wonderful way, I think, in a way. I don't think that was the intention of it, but it has turned into a really wonderful way of people repurposing things or reusing things. My mom is an interior designer. I remember as a kid, it was hilarious because whenever she'd put stuff out, it was like she was a salesperson because she'd see somebody looking at the table and she's like, just wait a minute. I have really adorable chairs that go with that. I'm going to go inside and get them. And then she'd tell them the whole history of whatever furniture store it was she bought that at. So yeah, so on Garbage Week, it just kind of started really organically. But I basically, what I do is I put as many different costumes in my car as possible that I can think of, like what kind of garbage am I going to find and what kind of costume would go well with that rubbish, and drive around and then pose like we're still using it.
Like you had like an aerobics outfit. I think you were on like a piece of workout equipment or like a
Yes.
treadmill that I mean, that's the kind of stuff that people are putting out there, like old 80s treadmills that
Yep.
still work.
Right?
They just don't look as fancy as the new stuff.
One of my favorites, I had like a 1950s kind of like housewife dress on and an apron, and I was scrubbing a toilet, and I was out on the boulevard. And people will call me too, like, "Oh, wait, there's a really great piece of garbage. There was a jacuzzi," and I was like, "Oh my gosh!"
Yeah, there's
or a
some
suntanning
primo
bed.
garbage out here.
Somebody will call and there's a suntanning bed on 4th Avenue. Go! So whip on the bikini and jump on this suntanning
awesome.
bed. But it's great because you watch people's reaction as they're either driving by or the people that are in their house, kind of peeking out of the windows, and sometimes you'll see them in the images, which is really hilarious.
A few years ago, as like a publicity piece, I made bingo cards called Cleanup Week Bingo. And so it's you and your friends or you and your family can drive around. Everyone gets a different card and it's different stuff on each card.
Yeah.
And so it's like tire. Okay, yeah, I got tire under the I. Oh, and someone else might have tire under the G. And so then you cross it out, and whoever gets the bingo first gets whatever the coolest thing that you found during your
love it.
drive. Yeah. And I think people end up collecting more stuff.
Yeah.
You know, take Tucker's dad. Tucker's dad is like a bloodhound when it comes to finding things. He'll
He
be like,
refers to it as curb appeal.
Oh, nice.
Is the rate. He's
Yeah.
like, oh, it's got some good curb appeal. But he's not being ironic in any way.
Right.
He sees it as a very professional sounding term. He uses it for garage sales all the time. And cleanup week, it really comes into play for sure.
yeah, he's the type of man who can go.
Oh, I could sell that for $5.
Yeah, he
Right.
can buy it for $1, sell it for $5, and he's very, very proud of himself. One of the things
He's a retired teacher. He's got to like
he's
eke
got-
out
he's got time.
what he
He's
doesn't
got
get
time.
from that. So
This year, I'm going to do something different with my cleanup week because we have a couple of appliances that we're going to throw. We're going to put out, not
Yes.
throw away. We're going to put
for other people.
respect there.
But
Yeah.
what drives me nuts is last year we put out this steam cleaner that was perfectly good. It still worked 100%.
I know what you're gonna say.
And someone came and clipped the,
The
cord
cord.
off because
I
they wanted the
know.
copper from inside the cord. And so they ruined this piece of equipment.
Yeah.
Right? So this year, I'm going to take like this, whatever the Saturday or Sunday is, and that's when I'm going to put out all of the stuff that has cords.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going to sit in my driveway and, I don't know, watch Game of Thrones on my phone or,
There you go.
or, read a book. And when someone pulls up, if they head over to that, I'm like, better not clip that cord.
Sounds like a day well spent, JJ.
It is.
I can see a really good garbage week photo with that one. I'll grab some scissors.
Yeah, I'd be like, no.
It'd be like a neighborhood
It
crime
does
watch
upset
crew.
you though, because
It is. Oh, yeah.
I even put signs, like still works perfectly, and
Yeah.
when they take the cord, you're like, oh man,
Right.
come on now.
Right.
Now you got to remove the sign because it
Yeah,
doesn't work
when it's just so
anymore.
sad because you're like
Mm-hmm.
waiting, like somebody's gonna get a really good whatever it is,
Yeah.
Well, and I know that later this year I'll be moving into a new apartment, and I've asked my friends to help me move 20 times over the last 10 years.
Wait, hold on. You've got friends other than me because I know I have been just you and me moving you about 1 million times.
Yeah,
but
all
there's
of
other
my friends.
people.
All
There's
of my
other
friends,
people?
JJ, do we really want to talk about how sad the statement is that I'm making right now? All of my friends came and helped me, JJ.
It's just awful, and it's always the hottest day of the year.
So what I'm trying to say is I better hire people this time.
Oh, sure.
Because I just can't call up JJ anymore. And so I need to get rid of as much stuff as I can so there's not much to move. But also most of the crap I have it's just sitting in a garage. I don't need it. I think I'm going to use it for something I'm never going to.
Yeah.
So let's lighten the load.
This year might be big because of Marie Kondo. I think that
Oh,
people
it's
are going
gonna
to
be
totally
massive.
I
condo
keep getting
everything.
told by my family members who see how disgustingly I live that I really need to start watching her show. So I'm going to start, but I keep
It's
hearing her
awesome.
name come up.
I do think so. I've watched her program and I find it to be great. I haven't implemented any of it in my own life in my house because
Yep.
I'm a pack rat. I love to keep things.
sure.
I like to be the person who's like, God, I need an old timey typewriter. Is there anyone who has it? Oh yeah, I got an old
It's
timey.
downstairs.
It's gonna take me an hour to dig through the rest of the pile, but I'll find it. But But the thing that I feel like people are going to regret about this movement is they're going to get rid of things that have a family history when you're too young to know and respect a family history.
I could see that. See that.
You know, I had a friend who was like, "Oh yeah, I got rid of this old writing desk that that was my grandpa's because no one ever uses it and it's just been sitting there collecting dust." And like, you know, in your early 20s, you probably don't need a writing desk inside your house, but you're gonna regret not having that writing desk.
Still kicking yourself over those Hummels, aren't you?
I am. Years ago, we were cleaning out the basement of my house. Now, my grandfather built the house that I grew up in. My parents bought it from him, and now I own it. So, I'm the third generation. Only family's ever lived in this house. And one of the things we did was clean out the basement at one point, and I found these ugly Precious Moments dolls.
Right.
I was like, these are not cute. There's no sayings on them. They're just ugly. It's all earth tones. Gross.
As opposed to those really nice, aesthetically pleasing Precious Moments dolls, which I would absolutely have kept had I thought they were Precious
So
Moments.
I took a box, like a big box of all of this crap, and I dropped it off at the boys' ranch. And then coincidentally, I was walking down the street and I walked by Royal Jewelers. And I noticed they had these ugly Precious Moment dolls in the window. And I'm like, look at these ugly things. And my friend goes, yeah, those are Hummels. They're like porcelain, hand-painted things. It comes from one company. They're really expensive. And I went, oh, damn. So I went back to see if they still had them. And no. Someone had grabbed them right away. And it was a full collection that my grandmother had purchased when she was in Germany on a trip.
Wow.
And it's a real bummer.
Oh,
like
wow,
that could
no
have
kidding.
paid for like my education and, or like a dune buggy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Something really
Education
that
or a dune buggy.
that you could
It's a
pass
hard
down to further
call.
generations, like a dune buggy.
This is my grandpa's dune buggy. It hasn't run in a long time, but he wanted me to hold on to it.
Marie Kondo says I should make space, though.
So what is like you said you grew up in DC?
Well, when I was really little, because my dad was in the Army. He was an attorney in the Army. So then we were there till I was maybe 3, 4, and we moved to North Dakota from then on. So I've been to Fargo since 4th grade.
So your dad was a military attorney,
Mm-hmm.
like in the movie. Was it like You Can't Handle the Truth?
Oh, maybe.
Like
Or
that.
like in Jag.
Oh,
Well, those I mean are Navy attorneys.
Yeah.
Oh.
I think of like, what are the Army base attorneys? Like,
Right.
did you order the Code Red? A Few Good Men. That's the movie I'm thinking of. So what, was he in the military beforehand and then he went to school and then
I think he went to
got
school.
in?
I don't know exactly how it went down. I think he went to law school first, and then he was.
Well, that's cool.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
forget that things like the Army need things like attorneys or
Right.
like or full-time like custodians.
Right.
And the jobs that it takes to make, the wheels turn and the days go by. So, well, that's really interesting.
Yeah, probably like as he was young and starting out, he probably got a lot of really interesting experience in that field. So yeah,
Well,
but now he's
like-
a judge. It's so.
Oh, yeah?
yes, he is. And it's really funny because we'll be out for dinner or whatever, and he's like, "Not to be judgmental, but it's kind of what I have to do."
I hope that's why he became a judge, was just because he really wanted to.
He's
had
super
that pun
judgmental.
that he just
Pun all the
was ready
time.
to
Yeah,
roll with it.
exactly.
And so you came to North Dakota. Have you always been in Fargo or?
Yeah, we were out in Williston first because I think during the first boom in the 80s, he was doing some, mineral law or whatever. And then we moved to Fargo when I was in 4th grade. So I've been here for a long time. But I really like Fargo. I know we started out the conversation with people thinking that Fargo is like podunky, but it's such an interesting community, I think, in the Midwest at least. We're different. We really are. And people here are really kind and nice, but also there's a little bit of like crazy artsy stuff going on, which is really fun. Mm-hmm. So
Without a doubt, when people call it flyover country,
Mm-hmm.
it bothers me because it's like there's some really hip stuff going on right here, and
Those are shallow people. We don't want them here anyway.
there you go.
yeah,
Get out of here.
And there are some backwater parts of our state, like
Oh, sure.
absolutely. But you find those in every state.
Right.
I have never been to a single state that does not have a gas station that features a T-shirt of a wolf howling at the moon.
Well, it's not like we
That's
live
true.
in like a reality warp. You know, like you can get out of Fargo for a weekend if you need, or travel somewhere and still have a life. But like with Fargo, I mean, there's just none of the stresses of like a major city.
Yeah. Well, in Fargo, if you want to make something happen, you can do it.
Yeah.
You know, if you want to get super involved with something or create something, you instantaneously find a support network of other people that want to do something the similar, the same thing, or want you to succeed. And you can't do that everywhere. You know, it's just like us with this crazy dream of building this zoo dedicated only to cold climate species. That, you know.
So along those lines,
Mm-hmm.
is there a particular critter that would work well at the Fargo Zoo that you don't have that would be like a dream get for you?
Yeah. So, because you think about cold climate animals, a lot of times when people go to zoos, they think right away about the African megafauna. So you think about zebras, you know, gorillas, whatever it is. But when you start to look at animals that live in cold weather, there's some really fantastic and surprising. So I think if I had like my dream before I retired, if we just go straight to like the big animals, I would love to have some jellyfish. I would love to have walruses, puffins, and this other animal would be called saiga. I don't know if you've heard of saiga before, but if you haven't, Google them. They're amazing. They're like a little hoof stock, but they have really long noses that are they're adorable. And their noses are so bizarre and different. And so I'd like to look at those animals that are, one, in need, you know, and seriously threatened. And then those animals that are really unique that people don't see or don't know about. I get a huge kick out of people finding something like, oh, I never even knew that animal was alive or was a thing.
So if the zoo specializes in animals that, you know, thrive in a cold environment, what do you do then when it's not cold, when it's summertime here in Fargo?
So they're really perfectly adapted for environments just like Fargo. So, you know, with that extreme cold, extreme hot that you get, like our Bactrian camels, they're so well adapted for life when it gets really warm. And then they in for the really super cold because of the way that their nostrils are and their eyelashes and their, you know, fur and things like that. So they do really well. But all of our animals do have indoor areas that they can go into that are heated or cooled. And we choose to just give them choice, give them access to that all the time. Because I don't like the idea of locking an animal on or off exhibit. I like them to have choice in their life. And I figure if we're doing a good enough job, they should want to be outside. So yeah, it's all about choice and about, there's really a lot of concern about animal welfare in our daily work and what we do. And I think, you know, there's some anti-zoo people out there. Fargo is not as, you know, North Dakota, we don't have it as much, but, you know, in the United States, there are a lot of anti-zoo people or anti-captivity people that I think are really, they love animals, but I think they're really misjudging or misled as to what a real accredited zoo does for animal welfare. So
And there's probably plenty of examples for them to point to of unethical zoos that are out there or unethical captivity of animals, and to say that's the whole way about it. But I really like that that your organization has this mission statement that makes it, we're not going to put, you know, a cheetah in Fargo's winter all winter long and make them deal with that. You know,
Right.
that makes no sense. So I really like that you have that mission.
yeah, and there's a lot of pressure because we are small, you know, so there's a lot, and people do have this weird expectation that they're going to see an elephant or whatever it is. And so we try to get on top of that right away, educate people as to what we're doing so they understand what they're going to experience. But there is a pressure, like, get tigers, you know, but I'm not going to do it. We're not going to do it until we can do it right. Like Amur tigers would fit within our collection plan. They'd be absolutely perfect because they're from Russia and, again, similar climate. But I'm not going to just, you know, make a concrete floor and cage. We're going to do it right, and that costs money. So money means support.
Well, how does one get a tiger ethically? Like what is sort of what would be the venue that you would be going through to do that?
So we get all of our animals through other zoos, so
Okay.
other accredited zoos, because the main purpose one of the main purposes of modern zoos is our captive breeding programs, which is SSP, Species Survival Plan, with a thought that at zoos, what we can do is we can breed enough genetic diversity within captivity that if the animal were threatened in the wild or went extinct, that we could, in theory, repopulate a healthy population for 100 years. That's the kind of the goal. And so you can pick which animals you think you can contribute to it, that you can house, appropriately. And so we get all of our animals through other accredited zoos that way.
Okay.
You don't pay for them or anything like that. And you have to have proven yourself. You have to be accredited and show that you're meeting or exceeding, I like to exceed,
Right.
the standards for care, for veterinary, for animal welfare, for your exhibitry, for your conservation and education components. And once you can prove yourself for that given animal, then you can move them in.
And what's at the beginning of that supply chain then, as far as I know you're getting it from an accredited zoo, but where is that accredited zoo getting the animal from?
Typically, they are born in other zoos.
Got it. Okay.
Right, so a lot of times it will be born in the zoo that I'm getting it from,
Got
or
it.
a lot of times we're moving animals behind the scenes. Like we just got a new panda in last week, and we'll be moving another one out. So the animals you see on exhibit might not be the exact same individuals from year to year if they're part of our breeding program.
Gotcha.
Because we get recommendations from the SSP based off of the number of individuals we have in under human care, and then those individual animals, genetic history. So they'll say, well, Fargo has a panda that would be really valuable if we breed it with this panda over here or whatever. And so I'm
You're
really
like the Match.com
Yeah,
of the animal
yeah.
species.
Pandas to
so
hook up.
we don't just have zoo babies to have babies, even though people love to see
We
them.
don't just have zoo babies to have babies.
There has to be a purpose, and there has to be a home for them once they're born. I won't breed animals just to breed or to get people excited about zoo babies. There has to be a real specific purpose for them.
Before we move on, I just want to offer, if you want to top off your Spanish olives jar,
Oh,
this
yes.
is untouched coffee that you're more than welcome to pour in there.
I am going to. Let's see how this
and
goes.
go for
There
it.
you go. Don't put too much in there; it'll burn your hands because it's
know.
hot coffee.
I know. I think I'm gonna sew some little cozies for these. This is gonna be a thing now. Everyone's gonna be
I feel
carrying
like you
around.
gotta keep the label.
Yes, I think
And
that's
is that
key.
label going to survive multiple washes?
We'll see. Well, it survived a few so far. We'll
Okay.
see. But I even put jars in my kids' lunch boxes.
Mm-hmm.
People used to use jars all the time,
Yeah.
and now you use plastic. And you use it once, and you toss it away, and then, you see more and more. Thankfully, you see more and more on social media people talking about what has happened because of single-use plastics. It's sad.
Oh, one of the most I'm getting to the point of where it's like I'm time to make a drastic change. I'm using a plastic straw right now, but I did finally break down and buy myself a reusable straw.
Nice.
Because
Yep.
I saw a video of a sea turtle who had sucked a straw through its nose and they had to extract it.
Yeah.
Oh, it's heartbreaking.
I know. And it becomes so overwhelming because
you
I've
just
done it
named one of
myself.
my favorite animals, by the way.
You start looking at all the plastic or all whatever topic it is, and it starts to become overwhelming, and you're just like, well, I guess I'm not going to do anything then because it's nothing I can do about it. It's just little things, but little things add up. And so if it's a little thing like getting rid of the straw, and a lot of people do it, because right now I think there was an estimated, 8 point whatever billion straws in the waterways in the United States. Now, I'm not a big downer. I'm not a big person that judges, anybody else. But for me, myself, I try to look at that. One of the stupidest things, though, I tried to eliminate using garbage bags last year. And because I'm like, well, this is stupid. I'm putting garbage in a bag and then putting the bag in the garbage. I'm like, that's just crazy. So I went bagless. Ugh. I had to come up with a different solution because that's pretty disgusting.
Because there's so much runny garbage juice out there.
Yes.
You have to hose out your garbage can after every use.
Yeah, it almost seemed like a couple times a week I was scrubbing this garbage can. And I know that sounds really like, oh, well, Sally, put plastic in the environment or scrub a garbage tank. That makes me sound really pathetic, but it got just disgusting.
Right. You're going, ugh.
I know. I'm like, why is my house like this? So I had to find another solution for that one.
What is there any way to merely take one bag, line the trash container with it, but get the bag to stay there when the dump truck comes?
Well, see, that's why I was thinking I might sew with some kind of bag that then could be washed, maybe tossed in my
Right. So
Yeah.
really, you're looking at a tarp material for a
Yeah.
bag. So if you ever go to IKEA, the bags that they give you at IKEA to walk around with are tarp. I use those for everything. But you could put that in your dishwasher. And it would be fine, probably.
Crazy.
Or you could-
Probably.
or even with just heavy duty garbage bags, you would just be using far less than
Right.
you would be if you were bagging garbage up individually.
Yeah,
but-
say if you get your plastic bag with your groceries and then you toss your plastic bag in another plastic bag, it just seemed so redundant. But
I think
Yeah.
that people would recycle more. So here's a wacky theory for you. So if you had to actually take your garbage to the dump yourself,
Oh, wow.
but they would collect your recycling and they would collect your compost, you would see people
Ooh.
compost and recycle like crazy because then they're only taking one bag of garbage to the dump.
Yeah.
At one point, I mean, you've lived in apartments. I assume you've lived in apartments. I know for me, it was a thing where when I lived with two other, like just young men who are able-bodied and smart, we had 6 bags of garbage at one point because no one bothered to just grab the bag and walk
Right.
it out to the dumpster.
Right.
And that became like a thing at one point. I just thought, God, how lazy are we with this
Yeah.
thing?
One of my favorite apartments I ever lived at was right down the hall. There was just a chute to drop it in, and then it just
Oh.
magically
It
went
just
away.
disappeared.
And just garbage is gone. I only stepped 5 feet. That was pretty sweet.
When I lived in a high rise in Chicago, we had a garbage chute, and I had a neighbor who lived right next to the elevator and the garbage chute. And so if you came out of your door after 10 o'clock, it's like he was just sitting there. He'd open the door and be like, "It's after 10 o'clock. You should take the stairs.
Oh.
You're not throwing out garbage, are you?" Because I was on like the 15th floor. So you'd throw the garbage and hear like,
That's fun.
and so he was like the person who is reminding you that there's other people on this floor who are going to be
Right.
bothered. And I'm like, listen, the only person that's going to bother is you, and you're already awake.
Right.
You're bothering me. So I think we're good to go.
Does your house have a laundry chute?
No, our old
I
house
love
did.
those.
Yeah,
Mine does, but it's
they're
been
well.
blocked by furniture for
Yeah.
a while, and I'm looking forward to moving out of this house and moving into an apartment, so that a lot of like the house things are just no longer a thing. I think about like snow removal this winter really sucked for me because
Yeah.
we don't have a snow blower, and so I was like, I can't shovel all this, so I just let it sit, and I just basically had snow all over.
What do you do at the zoo? Was there ever a time where the snow got so
They
high
did a
It was-
brilliant
where
thing.
you were
did.
like, the wolves might jump the fence?
Well, yeah, it was like backbreaking this one. It just wouldn't stop. And then because you have to not only do the human pathways and things, but all the animal exhibits we have to shovel because one, we want to give them enough space so that they can move around. But also, again, you're right. You don't want it getting so high that somebody's wandering somewhere where they shouldn't be. So you're just shoveling and shoveling, and then the next day it would be blown in, and you're shoveling again. And I could see my staff, the morale was just starting to break. And I think probably everybody in Fargo was starting to break a little bit. And one week, literally all of our equipment, the truck, the Bobcat, and all of our snow blowers all broke. Because they had just been used so much.
We're done.
And people were just like, I can't anymore. And so we just thought, well, let's just call in our partners. Let's call in the community because everybody has those neighbors that will do your sidewalk for you. That's totally just what they do in Fargo.
It's their love language.
Yeah. So we created an event. We called it Shovel Fest because one, that made us laugh really hard, but it also made it seem more fun than actually shoveling is. And we just put it out there. Anybody who wants to come and help us, give us some relief, help us get these areas clear. We had like 40 people come out. We gave them hot chocolate, and they were so happy, big smiles on their face. Their cheeks were so red because it was so cold, but just shoveling away. But it really helped, I think, the staff feel supported by the community.
So now that Shovel Fest is a success, have you thought about doing like, okay, it's Crap Fest. Everyone come and help us clean out the crap bins. Bring your kids. We're going to provide hot chocolate afterwards. That's the thing. You're tapping into that great upper Midwest mentality of like, we all lend a hand. We're all here. We all know that the winter is brutal. So
Yeah.
what can we do to help
Yeah.
another entity?
Well, do it for the critters. They're animals there. They have no concept of how to handle these piles of snow. So do it for them. I mean,
Yeah,
there's-
because it just starts to build up.
right.
You know,
There's
in the
actually-
wild, they could just walk away from it at that point and find a place where there was less
Yeah,
snow.
they're vulnerable, and so you got to at least protect them that way. But I
Yeah.
just love the idea of just attaching the word "fest" at the end.
Yeah.
Yes.
That makes it fun.
Oh yeah, well we're coming up with it. Jeremiah, that's my CFO, and we just laugh in my office all the time. Just like when we did, the April Fool's things, we just like spit ideas out and then laugh really hard. And we're like, Shovel Fest, be there. Yep, people will come to that. Let's call it Shovel Fest. Yeah.
Yeah, why not, right? What do
Bring your favorite shovel. Show
Yes.
off your shovel.
Yeah.
what
Or
are
shovel
some things
contest.
that made the whiteboard but never were implemented? Whether it was like you looked at it the next day and you're like, what were we thinking?
Hold off on that. Oh my gosh, I'm trying to think. I don't know, because we are so open to these ideas. We pretty much do whatever comes in there.
Okay.
You know?
Tucker and I will pitch you some ideas right here, okay? Okay.
Okay.
So it's the Barely There Day. It's a clothing optional day at the zoo.
Okay, here's the thing.
B-A-R-E, not B-E-A-R.
Yeah.
But see, it's fun because when you say it, it's a homophone.
Yes, it's there in the UK. The zoo did that. It wasn't called so you can coin that. That's really good. But they had a day, and then they raised money. I think for endangered species, and all of their zoo staff was like ran naked through the zoo. But that's in the UK. I don't know if we can get away with that in Fargo. But
got it.
possibly.
You could have a day where it's come touch a cow day. So come touch the cow if you've never touched a cow before. Anyone who has not touched a cow, we have one. You can touch it.
You know, the one thing that interests me about our zoo is there's also an agricultural component to the Red River Zoo, which is interesting because you've got people 10 miles away who are like, why do I want to pay admission to come see a pig? I just had to deal with a pig.
Yeah.
But there are plenty of people in the city who don't have a direct connection to a farm,
Right.
who want to see what that looks like. You think downtown Chicago, sure, of course they've got what life on the farm is like, but Fargo is now a big enough place where, you know, I had never touched a pig growing up. I didn't have any grandparents who had a farm, and so getting to see, like, you got like a giant sow, right? You
Yes.
know, like,
yeah.
massive.
2 Hereford hogs are like 500 pounds. But yeah, the thing with having the children's zoo farm is that's an area where people can, be in contact with the animals. Because that's what people crave, I think, is having really up close experiences with the animals. Well, we're not going to do that with the wolves or, our camels or something. But
Not yet anyway, but you guys might need the financial push at some point to have a contest to hang out with the wolf.
We are doing some really cool experiences, but with the zoo farm, that's where you just need an attendant there. You don't need somebody constantly there facilitating it, and people can have these really fun experiences. But also, agriculture has its own story. I think in North Dakota, that's super important that gets overlooked. Many places, when they talk about agriculture, when families, kind of attraction, they talk about it in this really cartoony way, like, visit us on Grandpa's farm, and he wears overalls, and they drive a red tractor. Or they... It's true.
Sold. Yeah.
Or they go like way back to the 1800s.
Right, they're like, this steam machine would plow a field in 2 fortnights.
Right. But like the story of modern agriculture and technology and science that goes into that is just insane. Like myself, when I started working on the project with the different agriculture businesses and farmers, I was like, wow, I didn't know. Like, what, you get inside a combine and it's crazy in there. It's actually fun for adults to get into a combine and look at all the different stuff. But what they're doing with precision agriculture to try to make the most of the land that they have and what farmers do to protect their land is a story that isn't often told. So,
I would bet money that in the next, let's just call it 20 years, we'll have enough technology where growing beef in a culture would be far better in every single way than actually slaughtering a cow for it.
Right, but we won't call it beef though. That's the thing,
Right.
is even today they're talking about how if it's not the musculature of a living animal,
Right.
it needs to be classified and called
Right.
something
Something
else.
else.
Because we're already getting stuff like that, right? And
Right.
we're assuming that it's beef, but then we find out, oh wait, this is 20% beef and 20% this and
Right.
20% this.
Well, but in the hypothetical future I'm talking about, though, in that world, you are literally taking beef tissue and just growing beef. So it is effectively beef. It's not like 20% and then a bunch of synthetic plastic. But regardless, in that scenario, we're just going to have a ton of cows that we don't need to kill anymore. And I'm like, what are we going to do? I kind of want to just release them in all of the national parks and be like, we have holocausted your race for
I would not advocate
thousands
for
of
that.
years.
Yeah.
And so
You
now
know-
just run free.
Let's just
be
upset
free.
the natural order of things.
Yeah, have you ever seen me after like an all-you-can-eat buffet? That would be the look on all the predators that you'd see in all these national parks. They're like, oh,
But if the
I ate
cows
so
were to
much.
organize, if you gave them the freedom of choice, they might
yeah,
do it.
good point. Good
Or
point.
just take them all and put them in Bearland and see what happens.
Yeah.
Maybe they'd get along.
Okay, so let's go through like a real quick thing of some questions that everyone wants to know about a zoo, but they never get a chance to actually talk to someone who runs a zoo. Food, where do you get it?
Where do,
Like-
for the animals?
Yeah, not for yourself. I'm assuming you've got
Yeah, like-
you got Spanish olives. I assume you're going to a Target or grocery store.
It depends on the species. So, so we do order specific meat for our carnivores from a company that does that. But I think the most interesting thing that we get from our food, we get, of course, our vegetables and produce donated from grocery stores. When it hits the sell by date, they give it to us because they can't sell it to people anymore, but it's still good. And then for our wolves, if somebody hits a deer in town when they're driving with it, if it's dead within 24 hours, the police will bring it over to us and we freeze it and feed it to our wolves.
Nice.
So yeah, so it depends on which animal.
So you're not going to
Circle of
Petco and buying like, massive amount. You'd be like,
No.
oh, the zoo's here.
Sometimes in a pinch though, because you're like, oh, we really need some parrot food. It's the same stuff. So yeah.
2, what do you do with the animal waste? Because like I clean up my backyard after my dogs are out there, and I've got 2 dogs, and they're not the size of the wolves. That's not a pack by any means.
Right. There's a big composting area in the back.
Is that what it is?
Yep. Yep. And then we do haul it out. I can't remember how often we haul it out, but we do.
Is
haul
it
down
like
the city.
whoever arrived a couple minutes late gets the short straw of like, oh, guess who's cleaning up the dung
the
today?
dump truck?
I'm
yep.
sorry, we're all out of wolf poop, but we got some goat left if you want some of that.
Yeah. But I think that if we were to actually invest a lot in the composting area, we could sell that because it's
without a
very
doubt.
nutrient rich. Yeah. But for right now, we just kind of compost it ourselves and then bring it out to the city.
That's smart. When an animal passes, how hard is it to get everyone to shake that and continue on? Because
It can be really difficult.
I love my pets a lot, and I don't spend nearly as much time with my pets
Yeah.
as some of your keepers do with their animals.
Yeah, because the keepers are with the animals literally all day, and they're paid to really know that individual animal and to be able to detect little changes in their behavior. It can be really difficult, but then again, it's part of being in the business. It's like if you don't want to experience the loss of losing a pet, don't have a pet. I know that sounds really terrible, but it's just part of it. Some of them just really emotionally destroy you when one of them passes. But yeah.
Oh, yeah, with both my cats, when I got them, each of them, I was like, you are a future heartbreak I'm agreeing to take on right now.
Right,
but
exactly.
But at the same time, it's worth it, I mean, you actually form a bond with that critter. But yeah, that's got to be tough.
Do you have patrons who like come and mourn an animal as well?
Yes, yeah. And there was an incident like a few years ago, not incident, but we had a cow that had been at the zoo forever. I mean, he was like 17 or 18 years old and people loved him, and he had cancer, and we knew that he wasn't going to make it for very long. So we just started a really open campaign of emails that we'd send out with updates from our doctor to letting people know where he was at in his process. And then when it became time where his life, we determined his quality of life wasn't too good anymore. When we put him down, we did that story too. And people were overwhelmingly so supportive of us and kind of grieved with us rather than keeping that hidden and then all of a sudden Brutus is just gone, So I like to be as open and transparent with people as possible because they're part of this, our guests are part of the story as well. So
Well, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so
All right.
people have listened to this and they're like, "Dang, I want to go to the Red River Zoo. This
Yes.
sounds awesome." Where are you located? How can they find you online? How can they
Yes.
give you some money?
All right. Well, you can do all of those things. I think go to our Facebook. If you're on Facebook, I really love our Facebook page. I think it's hilarious. So Red
is
River
awesome.
Zoo. Or of course, we're in Fargo, 4255 23rd Avenue South on redriverzoo.org. And any of those places, you're going to find lots of ways to join us and to donate and to help. And we do have Party for the Planet coming up on April 20th. So that's the big kickoff for our season, our Earth Day event. And we'll be opening a brand new exhibit. So we have Eurasian links coming in very soon. So.
And your gift shop is top notch. So if you're looking
Thank you.
for a gift for someone that's unique, something that they haven't seen a million times browsing the aisles of Target, you can go to the Red River Zoo and find a really cool gift, especially if you have that young animal lover in your life.
Yeah, there you go.
And remember, at the beginning of this podcast, Sally said that she looks forward to April Fool's prank calls. So
I
next
do.
year at this time, be ready because we're
Reward her.
and make it a good one. Make it a really good one that I tell for years.
This is a camel. I found a payphone. That's what camels sound like, right? We're all agreed.
Yeah. What was less realistic is that the camel found a payphone.
Right. That's what I was thinking.
He would have had like Verizon or something at the very least.
I'm on 5G. Sally, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you.
And don't spill your Spanish olive jar coffee.
I love it.
Good thing you've got the lid.
That's right. Thank you.
A huge thanks to Natalie Deutsch of Hatch Realty for sponsoring this podcast. Folks, if you're looking to buy or sell a home, contact Natalie Deutsch today because Natalie Deutsch is not only a previous podcast guest, she's somebody who's going to care enough to sell your property for top dollar. She's also going to find you the best price possible if you're purchasing a new home. Last year on average, Natalie earned her clients $4,000 over list price on their homes and sold them faster than the market average. On average, Natalie's selling a home every 3.74 days. That's 2 homes a week. Those numbers don't lie. Find out why Natalie is one of the top agents in this entire market. Get a hold of her today, Natalie at HatchRealtyFM.com. You can also call 701-388-9338 or go on to livefargomoorhead.com. That's livefargomoorhead.com. Read all of her amazing reviews and then listen to her episode of JJ Meets World. Thanks again to Natalie Deutsch of Hatch Realty. That's going to wrap it up for today's show. If you enjoyed this episode of JJ Meets World and would like to help us continue to produce 2 new episodes every week, you can donate to our Patreon. Check out patreon.com/JJMeetsWorld and donate today. Even as little as $1 a month can go a long way. Visit our website at www.jjmeetsworld.com or hit up our social media. We're on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, all the sites the kids are using these days. If you'd like to stay up to date on new episodes of JJ Meets World, you can find us on iTunes, Google Play, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or wherever you consume the podcast that you love. JJ Meets World is produced every week by Tucker Lucas. You can find out more about Tucker's work by checking out www.moonbasemaria.com. If you want to get in touch with your host with the most, go to linebenders.com and you can find direct contact info for JJ. Hey, I think there's a map on the bottom of this chair. What is it? Oh my God. I think we're having a Goonies moment.